Hello and welcome to the Merlin Locke podcast. I'm Merle.
And I'm Luck.
Set sail and low expectations for everything nerd, accompanied by healthy, albeit shameful helping of pointless banter, lack of focus, and questionably acquired knowledge. Alright, Locke. Now, I have a lot of subjects here we could talk about.
Oh, give it to me.
I feel like I feel like all the questions have to do with one thing, and I figure maybe we can group them all together.
Okay.
So the topic really is on gamers in general. Yeah?
The ever elusive gamer.
Yeah.
Got it.
I guess kind of like the quirks of gamers. Yeah. So one I wanted to talk about was that I've been seeing a lot lately because I was browsing around on Steam yesterday, and I was looking at like reviews and what have you of like games. You know, I was just trying to find a simple game that I could play with my child, something that'd be fun for us to get into. And I was looking at these reviews, and people tend to go off on games, right?
No, really?
Yeah, it's madness, I'll tell you. But the topic I wanted to start with was how people tend to fuss about video games, right?
Okay.
So my whole stance on it is so you have this group of people who they come together, they get all these artists, designers and coders, programmers, whatever, to all come together and make something with one another, like this piece of art that they want to push out and share, you know, with the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they put countless hours into it, and then they push it out, and then people just absolutely shit on it, you know? Now, I'm wondering, like, what kind of person thinks so much of themselves that they deserve more? Like, these people, they put all this work into this video game, but it's not good enough for me, so I'm just gonna shit on them and leave a bad review on the website and tell everybody to avoid the game at all costs because the devs aren't good enough. Right?
The way I see it is, for the people who don't think that it's good enough, is, are you getting your money's worth? I mean, because games are all about $60 to more, because now they've been releasing like these deluxe packages or gold packages where you get a couple odds and ends here and there. And are you really getting your money's worth? The cost of these games don't ever go down anymore. They just don't. No matter how old these games are, they're still $60 because you can just buy them right off the in-game store. So why should the price go down? I mean, the price should go down if you think about it, because of the cost of creating the discs that you would get out your physical copy. Like, you can see that being worth more.
I understand that. Like, so getting your money's worth. Okay, let's get into that. Now, just from upon first hearing you say that, it immediately made me think of, say, these big name video game producers that they can push out they can push out like little DLCs and whatnot for cheap, yeah?
Right.
Now they can afford to do that, but what about with these smaller indie companies who they're just like, we don't have 50 games to our name. We can't afford to sell our DLC for cheap. We need to make a living so we could keep paying our artists and our programmers and what have you,
right,
to continue work on the game. and then they come together and they make this DLC that they're, I mean, presumably, maybe I'm being presumptuous in saying that they're proud of it. I mean, there could be companies out there that just like, oh, I don't know, just come up with anything and push it out and see if we can get some money off of it. I mean, but I'm giving these people like the benefit of the doubt, right? Like these people working, like I'm just going to assume that they work hard on it and they do their very best, and then they try to push it out to keep the game alive, of course, because that's their source of income. Of course, they want to keep the game alive and keep people coming back to it. So why wouldn't they try to put out their best? And then people just completely crap on it because they're like, oh, there's hardly anything to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when you think about it, these indie companies, they don't have very many people. It probably took them forever to make this short DLC, right? Unlike a big gaming company where they have like 100 people work on it and they get it done in a few weeks or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it probably, they got to like pay for all these, like all the salaries of their team for the amount of time that they had to put into this DLC. Then people are just going to immediately crap on it, saying that's not good enough for them.
I mean,
right?
I see more backlash on your bigger name companies than I ever see on indie games. Yeah. Usually people look at indie games and they're like, you know, they're trying, like it could make some progress, and when I read the comments, usually they're like, you know, it has some pros and cons. Now you do have your occasional, maybe somebody who's really like, this, all these bugs, like I hate this.
It ruined my life.
I mean, but they're few and far between. I see more backlash on your bigger name brands. Let's think of something, maybe Activision, for example.
Well, let's not throw anybody under the bus.
No, I'm just naming a big company. I'm not. Okay. I'll name all the big companies if you need me to.
I know you will.
But yeah, no, I see more backlash on them because, and the way that I see it, coming from a standpoint of how a lot of the businesses seem to be working, is that they want to push things out and they want to push it out fast, and they don't really care about the really intricate details, the ones that we have enjoyed over the years.
Now what I put that on is, you know, the corporate hierarchy, right?
Oh yeah, once you've reached that point is when you see it more often.
Yeah, because like these artists and these programmers are putting their heart and souls into what they love to do, right? Is to make video games. And it's, you know, and they're being rushed by these corporate dudes on high who are like, oh, we need to push it out now. You guys need to work faster. And they're pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into these. And then, do you know who reads the comments, you know, after it's been released? Not the corporate dudes. They could care less, right? It's those artists and programmers, the people that poured so much of themselves into this work and worked so hard, and then they just get devastated by these people who completely crap on them and all their hard work.
I honestly gotta say, a lot of the devs that I feel bad for, who are put in a situation where everybody immediately throws shade on them and not to the people above them, who more than likely, and I'm not saying it's always the case, but more than likely have pushed them to the degree that they can't produce a good product.
Yeah, they do the best with the time they're given.
Right.
Yeah.
I also gotta appreciate indie companies, like watching some of the games that I've downloaded that were just kind of game previews, and then watching them grow, right? So you buy these games for cheaper at the very beginning, you know it's going to be buggy, and then as they start fixing through all the quirks, then they start releasing more content that you can now choose to spend more money on. And I kind of like that concept.
Yeah, admittedly, there is some who, so we're getting into people like releasing betas constantly, right? It's become very prevalent, where and it's smart. Like these developers, they obviously these indies, like this is how they survive. This is how they thrive, right? Because they don't have the finances to completely polish a game and then release it, right?
Right.
They don't have the finances to pay all their employees to accomplish that. So they need to do an early release in order to get support from the community so that they can continue work on it. And I love that. I love that. It creates it pretty much it opened the floodgates, as it were, so that all these indie developers can actually pursue their dreams and these games that they want to develop, and they don't have to get loans and what have you, or fall under one of these bigger corporate entities, right? They don't have to work under them and live by their rules or work by their rules, I guess. And that's amazing. It's helped release many incredible games, especially on Steam, because Steam is just flooded with all kinds of indie developers, which makes Steam pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I love it, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And we always find these gems here and there, like whenever we're just like browsing around, we find these little gems and we're like, oh, that looks fun, let's give it a go. And then we end up spending like months playing this game that is just from small indie company. No one else, like none of our other friends have ever heard of this game or whatever, but we're just spending months on it because it's so good. And it's, I don't know, it's created this whole new opportunity for gamers, and I absolutely love it.
Oh yeah, I feel like it also kind of creates its own community. People sharing these indie games and kind of getting to experience the the quirkiness of the bugs, and getting to share that with each other.
Yeah. Now, as far as bugs go, now I know sometimes bugs can be pretty crippling. Yeah. Like the only bug that I've ever been like very upset at, right? Like most of the time, yes, the bugs are like quirky and it's you can have a good laugh from them. But I remember I was playing The Witcher 3, right? And now I'm going to preface this with the fact that I love CD Projekt Red and I love all the Witcher games, all the games they developed. But I was playing The Witcher 3. It was just released and everything. And when it came to that game, I was one of the men, and I'm sure many people, that didn't touch the campaign at all. And I was doing everything else around before touching the campaign. And I got to this bit where it was game breaking, right? Where I remember it was like some kind of frost giant or something that I had gotten to, and something bugged out so that it wouldn't spawn or something like that. And it was like I wasn't able to play the game or continue the story because of this bug. And I had to put the game down for a while until they patched it again and they fixed the bug. Which, I mean, took maybe I only had to wait probably a little less than a month before they patched it and they fixed it, and I was able to continue. But but I remember at the time it was devastating because I was really into the game and I did not want to put it down, and I was forced to because of a game breaking bug. Now I understand when people fuss about that when it's like some kind of RPG story driven game where something happens where you can't continue the campaign, and I understand the frustrations of that. Absolutely. But complaining about bugginess, especially when you're like playing a beta or something, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't see why you would fuss about it when the I've seen in a lot of descriptions of these games that are in beta, they always say like this game is in beta, expect bugs and issues, and we apologize or whatever.
Right.
So like before you even buy it, you know there's going to be bugs.
Absolutely.
Because the developer themselves, they'd let you know, like, hey, it's gonna happen.
Yep.
So when you go down to the reviews and whatnot, and people are like, "Oh, game breaking bugs, blah blah blah," like, yes, like of course, they even said it would be.
Which you know what to do in that case, right? And more than likely, these developers at least set up in their settings a bug report button, and you just go in there and you say, hey, this is the bug I'm experiencing. This is the whole issue that I'm having. What did I do leading up to the bug? Explain it to the developers. Let them figure it out.
Yeah. And like, yeah, absolutely. And you can help with that.
Don't treat this like a bad relationship. You're just going to be like, well, I'm out of here.
Waste of my time.
Jeez. You guys are terrible.
Absolutely. And, admittedly, when there's an option for bug reports and stuff, I don't always do it myself.
I don't always either, but...
Perhaps out of laziness. But
I don't want to fill out a whole report.
But I also don't go and post bad reviews.
Right.
I mean... If you have that option, I feel like...
I have once, but yeah, we're just not going to talk about that.
Oh. Okay. Wait, was it something out of anger, perhaps?
Mayhaps.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Was it a multiplayer game?
Mayhaps, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well... I feel like the developers can't exactly be blamed for the player base.
Well, one thing that I'm glad that came out of it is one of the comments that I made. Now I know that it was one of the things that were already discussed to happen in the game anyway, but it was the whole talk of having bots in the game, and I was just like, if once that's a thing, this game will be at least a little better. Because then if I just want to play against bots to get away from people, I can do that. So next is my proposition to Rare for Sea of Thieves. PvE? Oh, wait, but that's a big no-no. People don't like to talk about that.
There's so much PvE, though. The game is filled with PvE.
With the chance of PvP.
There's a small chance of PvP.
Small chance, you say?
There's a high chance of PvP, yes. And it's like, I don't know, with Sea of Thieves, it's one of those things where, like, you're always looking over your shoulder, kinda.
Right.
You never quite feel secure. Yeah, I know that sometimes you'll see some sails on the horizon, and you'll be like, oh, maybe he's just out doing something. But then he, like, beelines it towards you, and you're like, oh.
You hope and you pray. You're like, I hope... Hey, you safe? Huh? Next thing you know, there's cannon fire. And...
Yeah. I mean, but sometimes you get these really cool, moments with other people, complete strangers and what have you. and it makes for funny stories. Yeah.
Right.
Like I remember the one time we were parked up. I think I was playing with you, where we were like parked up on an island, and there was a an active fort nearby, a skeleton fort. Somebody was doing that, And well, if you've never played Sea of Thieves, I guess we could describe it too. Okay, so there's a select few number of ships on a server, all exploring around in the same region for the most part, and that's how their server hopping goes. Is it's based on like what region of the map you're in, where they'll if you're by yourself and you're across the map from all the other people who are on the map and they're all in a similar region and you're not, then you'll probably get moved to a server where there are people in that region. So, and it's seamless for the most part. I mean, sometimes you get this little loading screen where it like pops up a little rhyme or something letting you know that you're being moved to a different server. But anyway, there's like these PvP elements, or not, or these PvE elements to the game where these big world events, right? And one of the world events is called it's a skeleton fort, where it's an island that was built into a fort where, and there'll be a big skull cloud in the sky right above the fort, like stating that it's active. And you'll go there, you'll fight off a whole mess of skeletons, like all these waves of skeleton enemies, and then you'll fight like a boss, and then the boss will drop a key, and you pick up that key and you put it in the door that's on the island, and when it opens, there's all this loot inside, all this treasure that you can grab, put on your ship, and you can go sell at an outpost. So, okay, now I got that out of the way. We were sitting on an island, and we were doing something called a tall tale, which is like, it's these story-driven missions that you can do within the game, where it just takes you around and you solve these riddles and explore these areas, and the story unfolds. And we were doing one of these little missions, which these missions aren't the most fortuitous, but they give you like commendations and whatnot for completing them a certain amount of times, or finding like all these journals that are written that can only be accessed by doing that particular mission. And you get commendations for that, and through commendations you get this form of currency called doubloons that lets you purchase certain things. These certain things are only available through purchase with doubloons. And we were sitting there at an island. We had no treasure on board or anything, and there was an active skeleton fort nearby, and we were just sitting there. Then out of nowhere, I hear somebody climbing up the ladder on the side of our ship, and I was like, "Oh look, friends!" and and I hop out on board as these two guys, and one of them is holding a powder keg, right? Which a powder keg, obviously it's an explosive barrel.
Big boom.
And yeah, it could explode your ship, put many holes in it, kill you and your crew. And one of them's just holding that. And I was like, hey boys, we're just here doing tall tales. We don't actually have any treasure or anything. And the one guy put down the barrel, and he was like, "Oh, well, we were doing the skeleton fort across the way, and we thought you guys were, trying to poach us or something." Because, I mean, obviously, if somebody completes the skeleton fort, anybody else can see on the server with you can see that you completed it, so they're gonna be like, oh, let's go try to steal the treasure now that they've completed the fort, and they'll try to poach the treasures from you. So they thought we were poachers of a sort because we were close by and we had our sails up at an island. And I was like, no, we're just doing tall tales and we don't got any treasure. And they're like, oh, all right, I'll just go get rid of this. So they pick up the barrel, they walk away, they explode it, and they're like, all right, you guys have a good one. And then they just dip out. And it's like, it's always a toss up with these interactions with people, because sometimes you'll get people who are, they're, you'll get people who are, treat people like normal folk would,
Right.
out in the real world.
Yep.
Where you treat them with like a sense of respect or dignity and things like that. And then you'll get your players who are just complete monsters. Well, they'll just
That's a polite way to put it. Yeah.
I guess so. But they're probably decent people in real life, right? But in the video game, they're
Questionable folk.
They're crazy folk, and they will take the whole pirate theme to heart.
Yep. They're like method actors of gameplay.
Yes, the method actors. Which, I mean, it's to be expected, right? It's a pirate game. It's called Sea of Thieves, right? Where, we're all thieves trying to steal each other's stuff.
Are we justifying it now?
We are. I know. I do this all the time. Where I like crap on it and then I justify it, and I always play both sides of the same coin. I know.
Don't want to make any enemies out there.
Man, no. But I mean, no, what I'm saying is that I get it. Like, I hate it, when it's happening to me, but I get it when I take a step back. That's all I'm saying. It's not necessarily something that I often do. I don't know. Maybe because it makes me feel bad.
Only one time did you say, let's go try to mess those people up. Let's try to ruin their night. And we ended up having our night ruined.
Oh, yeah.
You were like,
yep,
that was our fault.
Right away.
Yeah, there was a whole lot of stuff that happened. And they just had the upper hand. And we're like, yep.
Yeah. We started chasing some guys because I thought it would be funny to go after those guys. And yeah, we got krakened, and then almost all of our supplies were wasted, and then we got completely crapped on by, I think there was 2 ships there.
I think so.
And by the end of it, we finally caught up to the guys that we were chasing, and then they just completely spat on us. They destroyed us in their broadsides. And after our ship sank, I took out my little speaking trumpet thing, so I could yell out to them, and I was like, "Hey, is it too late to apologize?"
I now want to just refer to megaphones as speaking trumpets.
Yep. Well, megaphones they're powered. Speaking trumpets.
Speaking trumpets.
Are, yeah.
All right.
But yeah, those
more
people,
you know.
They were the people I said that to. They were cool, and they're like, "Oh, are you guys the ones that got krakened?" And I told them, "Yeah, it was like a bit of karma that we got for coming after them," and they just had a good laugh at us. But yeah, you could have all kinds of fun interactions in that game. So my recommendations, if you were ever to play it, is to make sure you can do some game chat. Make sure you can chat in games so you can talk to people, and it leads to some pretty fun interactions. Thank you for joining us on the Merle and Locke podcast. If you enjoyed this banter, please consider becoming a patron by going to patreon.com/merleandlocke or simply follow the link in the description. Thank you.